Still gross.
Yes.
Cousins, also betrothed, also step-siblings.
There wasn't really much justification for Eric doing so in the book.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the lore dimension. We are talking about House of the Dragon.
Season 2, episode 1 and 2. Let's get into it.
This is our second attempt to film this video because the first one, I goofed the audio on.
Fire cannot kill a dragon.
So essentially we're just going to talk about what we liked, just about the episodes, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the lore. Disclaimer, this is heavy spoilers, so if you haven't already seen the first 2 episodes, go watch them and then come back. We are going to avoid going into lore-related spoilers for past the episodes, but we will discuss how things in the episode either stuck to or deviated from the lore.
And whether or not they may or may not have any kind of consequences or not later on. So first of all, like Kate said, we're going to get into the things that we like just as average viewers, the things that if we didn't know the lore, we like to see, we don't like to see. So with that said, we liked the Jaehaerys and Alysanne reference on the wall.
Yes.
When Jace was talking to Cregan Stark, and the reference that Jaehaerys met with the Lord of Winterfell and Alysanne flew out to meet him, and while she was there she tried to fly past the wall and the dragon just wouldn't do it. I like that they brought that up.
And that was original lore, that dragons wouldn't fly past the wall. So
shame no one told him at Game of Thrones, eh? Next one, very small detail, but just a nice little addition to Otto, nice little layer, because he didn't have many in the first one, he was just a snake.
Stop hissing in my ear!
When Alicent tells him that he needs to stop undermining her or the boys will grow deaf to her,
yeah.
And he's like, I hadn't thought about it like that. And just the way he sort of said the line, I was like, cool.
Like, you could tell he actually thought about what she'd said.
Yeah.
And obviously time has passed. You know, her kids are grown and have their own kids, so I think he is starting to view her a little bit more as an equal and less as a child that he has to tell what to do.
So yeah, nice little bit of growth there from Otto. Really liked the Rhaenyra and Syrax scene.
Yeah.
The Rhaenyra and Syrax scene was harsh.
I didn't
realize
the first watch through, but the second watch through after knowing, oof.
Yes. So just to try and sum it up a bit quicker, not only was Rhaenyra there and struggling with having found her son, but Syrax is also the mother of her son's dragon, Arax. So Rhaenyra and Syrax were both there mourning their children together, that they lost together in the... Yes, we like that scene. That was a good one. That was... You're doing great.
Just, like, I thought Syrax was dragon yelling because...
Because Ryder was upset.
Ryder was upset. No, it was because that's her baby.
Because now she's scared away the nasty people and she can cry for her baby too.
Anyway, we need to move on. I'm doing great.
Yes.
We like Eric's response to Daemon, because Daemon is just so quick to throw out blame, but Eric has such a wise...
A good response, yeah.
It's a very wise response,
very
because...
potent response.
Daemon's saying, you could have killed Aegon, you could have ended all of this. And Eric just goes, but we all swore to protect the royal family, so what are we supposed to do when they start killing each other?
Yeah, me and my brother as children swore our oaths to protect the entire royal family. It's not our fault you started tearing each other apart. Yeah, no, I like the response. That's good.
Which certain members of the Kingsguard can be sworn protectors to certain members of the royal family, where they specifically swear to protect that one person. But in general, it's just a royal family thing. So the infighting, it's going to be confusing.
One way or another, you could be considered treasonous. So.
Exactly.
So one thing we really liked was the scene where Rhaenyra and Jace finally get reunited. First time after what's happened with Lucerys. And Jace is trying to hold it together, bless him, but...
Just... I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. Like, it made me cry. I was in tears. And it was that Jaehaerys tried so hard to cling to duty and do the, like, responsible thing as the prince and heir. And then his voice just cracks.
Lady Jane Arryn has pledged her support. And Lord Cregan Stark has promised 2,000 men.
And you can just tell, just in that moment, amazing acting on both their parts. She didn't even need to say a word. But just in that voice crack, you know, his heart is breaking for his brother. It was so impactful and
Well
amazing
acted.
acting.
So few words needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
The writing in this thing's...
That's amazing.
So yeah, 10 out of 10 acting with that one. Our main dislike for the series so far. Never mind the first episode.
It is hard to even find things to dislike, but
We found one.
we don't like Kristen Cole.
And what has Sir Kristen Cole done?
He's a hypocrite at best.
I feel like Damon would know what to call him.
Continuing source of inspiration.
Yeah, pretty much sums that up.
That's that.
Kristen.
Garbage man.
Trash human. Make him Crispin.
So yeah, those were our kind of surface level things. Now we're delving more into the lore. That's what we do.
Hello.
The lore.
I remember. The first thing is they kind of did glance straight over some things in the north with Jason, Craig and Stark. It's a nice little scene. Again, as we said, really like the dive into some of the backstory and how it's going to affect what we now know happens in the future being wrong. I love that. Really enjoy that. However, they did glance over a pretty sizable chunk of those two building a bond and a friendship, and I'm interested to see how that affects things later, if at all. It may not. It doesn't necessarily have to. There's very small changes made. Big things happen, but whether or not they'll affect anything is kind of up to them at this point. It doesn't have to.
Yeah, Jacaerys spent a lot more time in the north than it appears he does, which, granted, from season 1 to season 2, the actors age, so it's not necessarily clear, at least to us, how long he was there, but in the lore, he was there for quite some time. And
knowing that in the show they set off at the same time and he only got to Storm's End and then that happened, and it doesn't feel like Jace has had enough time to build that friendship.
And also get to the Eyrie.
Yeah, small one.
Things.
So let's go into the other bits anyway. Why did Daemon end up going to order blood and cheese instead of Missaria? Because in the books, she goes and gives him the order. It, again, never really specifies. It's a son for a son. But in this, Daemon goes instead. And I feel like the reason for that is just so that they can try and reveal it maybe to another character later, who you don't know that yet.
Potentially. They also might have left it so that Missaria could stay at Dragonstone.
But she already does.
She gives the orders from Dragonstone.
No.
She goes and comes back.
Oh, right, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, so they didn't have to risk sending her back to King's Landing and... Yeah,
Right.
Okay. Maybe.
Like, you know,
Maybe
if
because
there's that
where they
level
had
of
her.
mistrust, the way they kind of set it up, it wasn't like they trusted her to carry this thing out. They used her for the information. So they kind of set it up that way, but again, why?
It was only really Daemon at that point, wasn't it? Rhaenyra didn't have anything to do with
No,
it.
she hadn't spoken with her yet. But I think they may have wanted to highlight just how far Daemon would go.
Yeah, I think there was a reason they wanted to try and push more towards mistrust of Daemon and as to why Rhaenyra still trusts Missaria later on. We'll get there when we come to it. We'll find out. We might be wrong. Very small gripe. Deviation from the law, potentially. Alan is visibly a lot older than he's supposed to be in the books. And
He does
as we
look
find out in
very
episode
old.
2, slight ahead of time spoiler, he's also looked a lot older than his brother who is supposed to be his senior.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's a casting choice. And I'm interested to see where they go further down the line. But yeah, they definitely look like there's more than a year between them, and the older one looks younger. Which maybe that's just how he looks. Like, the hair could make him look younger. It could be that because one of them spends more time on the sea, it weathers him a bit more. I don't know what they were going for. But yeah, just a little thing he doesn't... They're supposed to be really young, and they don't look it.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be like 14, 15, and they ain't that.
No.
Again, I understand why with it, but give us a reason.
So, if you've seen episode 1, which I hope if you're watching this you have, you saw how it ended.
Final spoiler warning.
It ended in a very brutal way, and it was hard to watch and listen to.
Specifically.
But they deviated. Granted, what happened in the lore wasn't any easier to stomach, but there are a couple of key things, because they changed them, that changes kind of how the story feels, at least, I think.
Yes. Yeah,
So-
it leaves a few things open.
In the lore, Blood and Cheese lay a trap for Helena specifically, meaning they are going to target her and her children. There was no misconception about who the target was. There was no misunderstanding. It was, you're going for the heir. And so they went to Alicent's room.
Because they know that she visits them every evening with the kids.
To say goodnight to their grandmother. And they waited for her. Captured Alicent.
Killed her maid.
So when Helena comes in, obviously expecting to see her mom, she is caught unawares with 3 small children. Jaehaerys, Jaehaera, and Maelor. Maelor was about 2. Jaehaerys and Jaehaera are twins, so same age, a little bit older. In capturing the family, Blood and Cheese offer Helena a choice. An actual choice, not like the one we saw in the show. Which son do you want to give up? It's a son for a son, but you can choose. She chooses Maelor, the 2-year-old.
And bear in mind, before she chooses anything, she offers for them to kill her instead. They refuse. There's a lot of threats that they make that lead to her eventually making a choice in the first place. She doesn't just go, well, maybe have my necklace. They say no, and she goes, oh, okay, well, that one.
Yeah, no, it's a conflict, and the stakes are high. We don't really want to get into the stakes.
No.
They're
messy
and very adult-themed. If you want to look into them, check them out, but trying to keep things PG here.
Family friendly.
She finally makes the choice, and we believe her rationale behind it is, he's 2, he's lived less of a life, and he's not the heir.
I think it's probably the most important.
Potentially.
In at least Aegon's eyes.
Yeah. Upon her saying this,
Cheese then whispers to little infant Maelor that, did you hear that? Your mummy wants you dead, or your mummy wants you to die. And then prompts Blood to swiftly kill Jaehaerys. Just one swift shot, nothing like what happens in the show.
Quickly,
one
swiftly.
movie's dead, it's done, and that's the end of that. On the one hand, it makes you aware that she never had a choice to begin with. They were always going to kill Jaehaerys. They just wanted to mess with her, which again, Rhaenyra would have never asked for that.
No.
In the show's version, Maelor doesn't exist. And it kind of leaves you with the question you didn't realise you needed answering beforehand, which is, who is the heir after Aegon's? If Aegon were to die, then who would become the heir after him? Would it be Aemond? Would it be Rhaenyra's eldest son? If they're all saying that she's not the one who's fit to be the next queen, would it go to her next son before it goes to Aemond?
What's the rules of succession?
So what good with succession, bruh?
Is it going to go to Jaehaera? Because naming a female heir is what got everyone into this mess.
What, if it's going to go to a female first, it'd go to Helena, surely. If you got rid of Aegon and Rhaenyra, surely the next heir would be Helena.
Helena's older.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know
so.
that.
Which I think is why her and Aegon ended up being together rather than her and Aemond.
Still gross.
Yes. Next one. This is less in the lore category. This is something we wanted to come back to. But Rhaenyra's specific instructions were, I want Aemond Targaryen. And that's kind of left us wondering, what would have happened if that had have just come to pass? If someone would have just bought or asked for Aemond to come and stand before her, summoned Aemond, I feel like she would have just slapped him across the face, begged him why, and he would have been honest. If he's going to cry into the lap of some rando in a
brothel,
yes, then why wouldn't he be honest with his sister at the time? He says he regrets it.
I mean, it was an accident.
Yeah. So I kind of like that because it leaves you with that really annoying little thought in your head of, oh my god, so everything could have been so different had they maybe just had that conversation. Which I like. I like when things give you that, what if it didn't have to happen like this?
Yes.
There was the side note, which was Cheese didn't need to kick the dog. We already knew he wasn't a nice guy. He didn't have to kick the dog because what happens 2 minutes later makes us well aware that he was not a nice guy.
And what did I say as soon as he kicked the dog?
I hope he dies.
I hope he dies. On that note. Episode 2.
Yes. Right. Likes and dislikes for episode 2. Aegon's intensity in the opening scene of season 2. Acting, again.
Entire, episode 2.
Yeah.
I mean, season
absolutely.
2. The last episode as well.
Yeah, so far
His acting. Wow.
better than anything you saw in the entirety of season 1 of Rings of Power. Anyway.
Aegon is played by Tom Glencarney.
Yep.
And I think, obviously he's already doing well. He's in The House of the Dragons. So, he's not struggling. But I think as an actor, he is only going to see success from here on out. With his acting abilities and with his persona off screen. Everything I've seen from him, he is a delightful person. Absolutely nothing like Aegon, but...
Yeah, everyone seems to get along with him really well.
Yeah, and so I think we'll be seeing lots more from him.
Hopefully.
And I look forward to it.
He deserves the spotlight. Great acting.
We also really liked the Daemon and Rhaenyra scene at the very beginning of episode 2.
When she finally cottons on.
Yeah. Yeah.
First of all, I love that Rainey shoots him that look first, where she's like, "You're very quiet," uncharacteristically quiet, and then as it sort of carries on, all of a sudden Rhaenyra looks at him, and then it just again.
She knew as soon as she looked at him.
Such a well acted scene again, but with this one with a lot of words, unlike the Rhaenyra and Jace scene. This one, the writing took a massive part in it, and the acting was done so well.
The acting, the chemistry of the two of them, they play off each other so well.
I have served you faithfully.
Have you? Or have you used me as a tool with which to grasp at your stolen inheritance?
Yeah, obviously there's the words, the script writing is amazing, and then the acting of the script was amazing, but also their physical chemistry.
Tells me
It's
it's pathetic, and he just
ridiculous.
walks away like, alright, I'll show you. The chemistry, it's that good. You forget that most of the first season was a different actress playing Rhaenyra. And, she was great, but these two they act like they've acted together from the beginning.
Seriously.
Very, very well done.
It's amazing.
We like Jason Baylor and their little comfortable moment where they're talking about their dads and what they think about them, and how he sort of got two different opportunities, which doesn't faze him when she brings it up in the first place.
I think they talked about it before. I mean,
it feels like it.
They were cousins, also betrothed, also step-siblings. So,
They've had a lot of years together.
Targaryens, am I right?
It's difficult to keep remembering all the names.
And relations to people. Anyway.
When the series is done, have a look into the lore yourselves if you don't want to spoil it beforehand. There's so many of them.
But yeah, her comfort in asking him, and he doesn't even blink. He just goes right into answering.
And Sir Harwin strong?
He was gentle.
And I do feel a bit sad for Bela because her mom didn't make it. Her dad's really cool, but not present.
He's a badass by name, but
not a great dad. Whereas Jace gets a mom who cares very,
all of
very
the kids
much.
unconditionally.
And two dads. He had had two dads. Oh gosh, yeah, he did lose them.
And now he's got the same dad she's got.
Oh.
So he can probably
He's got a mom.
So again, he can also see the difference. Not only does she know his sort of what he's had to go through, but he also understands what she's going through. It's a very nice, comfortable little scene. We like that one.
But it was really sweet that he took different things from his two father figures.
And I think also explains why they cut out some things that happened earlier in the North. I think they just wanted to focus on those two and let that be a thing. Next one.
We like that they got cheese.
Especially after he kicked the dog as well. It was bad enough knowing what was coming with the scene. We know they tweaked it slightly, but obviously they just wanted to add that extra little bit of malice in for him by having him kick the dog.
You hate him for what he did. That's a given. But then on top of that, you're like, oh yeah, and... Which, it felt almost gratuitous, like not necessarily needed, because it made me sad. I nearly cried at that. But I get it. It does a great job of showing who he is right from the start.
Shame they had to hang hundreds of innocent men in order to achieve it.
Which is, that's another
But
thing
at least they
that
got
I'm
one
like...
guilty one.
And hang them from the walls of the city for all to see.
Anyway, happy he's dead.
Very
He
happy
deserved
he's dead.
it.
Very small critique. Didn't like Eric getting off the boat wearing his armour.
Weird.
We had all this with Rings of Power. You don't wear armour when you're on ship. Maybe they didn't show him on the ship, so maybe he wasn't wearing it.
They could have done it really easily of, him wearing like something, either something covering his armor or something instead of the armor, and then change behind a rock, or you change like somewhere. But the way they leave it, it seems like he just traveled full armor, got on the boat one place, got off the boat the next place, walked up, like so brazen and just no element of stealth whatsoever, and it didn't sit right with us.
Yeah, and again, because there isn't much to sort of distinguish how much time has passed between events, you don't really know. There's one thing you will say, because there's such big jumps, it seems like a couple of things, as we're about to mention, they already seem to be happening slightly further ahead of the time. But we'll see what they do with it, as long as nothing breaks the law. Right, so, onto the law. So, thank God Kristen Cole's ability to project all of his insecurities and faults onto everyone else finally paid off in a rather interesting way as well. I did like the way that they managed to use him being a totally narcissistic swine to be able to then manipulate and brainwash Arik to go in and attack him, Rhaenyra. Because there wasn't really much justification for Arik doing so in the book. Kristen's like, go and kill Rhaenyra, and that'll be a good thing for you to do. And he's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it makes you hate Kristen Cole so much more. Like, we hate him, period.
I hate that guy.
He went from being a loyal sworn protector for Rhaenyra to one of her most outspoken haters, is the only thing I can think of.
Anti-simp.
Yeah, to then...
He loves to hate her.
To then just being the most hypocritical person, because he's doing the same thing with Alicent, but that's okay because it's him and her and not... What?
It's the queen that laid with him's fault, not his fault for laying with the queen.
And yet he projects that ruining of his duty of, your cloak is dirty, so you're besmirching our position. Like, dude.
You still got some Alicent.
It felt a bit like Otto being removed from his position might have come a bit early.
Potentially. Marginally. Nothing breaking.
But that scene, Otto's arc in the first 2 episodes, even, like, I hate him less.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing, like, the character development. And in that scene specifically, the acting.
I don't hate him less, I just understand him more now. I think he genuinely thinks that he's doing the right thing most of the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas before he kind of had that element of, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do to try and manipulate the situation to be the best way I can get it. And that is what he's doing, but I don't think he's entirely aware of it. And I think when he's called out on it and he hasn't got anywhere to hide, he's getting to the point where he's like, okay, fair enough. But yeah, that whole section, Aegon, Otto, was just phenomenal.
It was amazing.
The delivery, the intensity, the script itself, everything was just fantastic.
Thoughtless. Feckless. Self-indulgent.
And I also really like how it contrasted against the Daemon and Rhaenyra argument, where now both Daemon and Otto have told Rhaenyra and Aegon that Viserys didn't choose you, he was just spiting me. Viserys just went, no. Rhaenyra was supposed to be queen, and the Hightowers went, no. So Aegon's only there because Rhaenyra and Daemon got skipped, and Rhaenyra's only there because Daemon got skipped.
Exactly.
Why did Viserys skip him? Was it because Daemon didn't deserve it, or was it because Otto Hightower manipulated him to skip him? Which again, as Otto's now saying, you'll regret this, it makes you think, you're regretting what you did though.
But yeah, the acting was amazing.
Awesome.
The chemistry on the two of them, the calling out of Sir Kristen being a prankster.
You sign off on this prank.
And you acceded to this prank.
So it will be interesting to see how Otto reacts now that Aegon's...
You are dismissed.
Be gone, long one.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic scene. Really enjoyed that. Potentially the best scene in the series so far, actually. Really, really engaging. I really enjoyed it. Again. And then the brothers, the Battle of the Brothers at the very end. Very slight deviation, purely in the final outcome. There's 2 lore renditions of the story, one of which is they both sort of died together. Another one is that one of them died, the other one died a few days later and like still cursing his name, and they hated each other. So I like that this one kind of gave closure to both without having the cliche moment where they both stab each other at the same time and just sort of huddle in and curl together.
My brother Anakin.
That would have been a bit immersion breaking, I think, whereas having it sort of this way where he literally was like, I've defended my queen, I've done my duty, but I can't live with what I've had to do it, so sorry, Your Grace, and just falls on his sword.
Yeah. Like the apology, because he was breaking his oath by removing himself from the situation, but they'd been, as they said, like one from birth, and then they were parted because he chose Rhaenyra and the other one chose to stay. Just to see that all culminate in this fight, and then it was another really like emotionally impactful scene.
Yeah, very good. Not many words needed for it either.
No.
It wasn't the greatest choreography, don't get me wrong, but it didn't really need to be.
It was no Battle of Mustafar, am I right?
No. You were so busy focusing on which one's which that you weren't really paying attention.
I had no idea.
What they were doing anyway.
I tried to keep track, but then they turned the camera off of them onto Rhaenyra, and I was like, I don't know.
I'll tell you what I did notice. Neither of them, amateurs, fought with their feet.
Fight with your feet.
not your arms.
What are you doing, House of the Dragon?
You fight with your
watch Rings
feet.
of Power, you'll learn.
I
You get their
need
monkey
some
toes
lessons.
and just like throwing knife.
I need some lessons from Galadriel.
So that's it. That's everything for those few. That's the average viewer things that we liked and disliked about it, which, as you can see, there was a lot to like, and we haven't really gone into it as much as we'd like to, just for the sake of time. The amount we disliked was marginal,
Minimal.
just because it was kind of unexplained. If they'd have shown him just putting his armour on to go on the lifeboat, at least it would have just been weird that he thought to go up there in the lifeboat. Other than that, just Kristen Cole. He's the only thing we don't like, and it's not their fault. He's just not a nice guy.
If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. So we are going to try and kind of couple the episodes together and talk about them just in short videos like this.
So every episode's a twofer.
If you liked the video, be sure to go down and like the video, hit subscribe, ring the notification bell so that you get notified when we do post. We got lots of plans coming up. Obviously, we're going to follow along with this adventure, Rings of Power, when it eventually comes out.
I'm sure they'll be very similar.
They are TV shows. I think that's about where it ends.
Hopefully.
On that note, thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.